Hello and welcome to the 39 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney III. Tonight's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. I want to also say thanks to the good people at Pitch Logic. It's the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from the youth leagues to the big leagues. It's easy to use and affordable technology that makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. See pitchlogic.com for more information. Speaking of highest levels, I am joined by three gentlemen that operate their lives at the highest levels. The great Kendall J. Rogers, the great Seifert and Joe Healy, and the master of credibility, the director of credibility, David J. Seifert. Gentlemen, good evening. How we doing?
Good evening.
I'm doing well. I'm a little nervous being on a podcast with a man of Seif's stature.
Well, as you should be. Gentlemen, let me start off the inane banter part of the procession here. I would like to know, we were all at four really cool venues last weekend. Kendall, you were in Round Rock at that awesome facility for the Carbach Classic. Seif, you were at Globe Life, which is money. Joe, you were at the Jax Classic because you are kind of like the chic, cool version of, that's you're the director of cool at D1Baseball.com.
Famously cool person, absolutely.
Did I hear something about like a little person rodeo or something too? Is that what I heard?
There were two competing events across the street at the Jax Classic. One was professional bull riding, PBR tour.
Thank you.
2 nights, Friday and Saturday night. During the rain delay on Friday, I thought about scalping a ticket to that. Didn't come to pass. And then apparently, I did not see this. I was told by a source.
I feel like this is a fake news item.
Breaking.
Well, I was told by someone else who maybe is affiliated with D1 Baseball, who was in Jacksonville. You guys can do your own research on that. That there was at a bar
story already.
across
Kyle
the street.
Was it KP?
Oh, it was not Kyle
I'm
Peterson.
I'm kidding.
Rhymes with Methan Rock.
Yeah. That there was a little person wrestling across the street at this bar. I did not see with my own eyes, but I'm not entirely sure why this person would lie about that. So, there was a ruckus coming from that bar across the street. So
I
something
find
was
it
happening.
hard to believe that this person knew about this and did not actually report from this. I just kind of feel like that's right in his wheelhouse.
You'd think. Yeah, you'd think.
Yes.
He was pretty excited about it when he told me.
Oh my gosh. Do 6'5" individuals are even allowed in establishments like that? I would think that.
Hey, I have a question, a poll question. What is better to watch, little person wrestling or Hagen Smith pitch?
For me, Hagen Smith every day, all day. So
Yes. Hey,
I have no interest. I have no interest in the other, but Hagen Smith, I'll watch him. I'll watch him 14 times a year.
We got to get Seif's breakdown of that in a minute.
Yes, in a second, Seif. That's a good segue, sort of. But let's do this. Here's what I want to talk about first, because these are all great venues. I would like to know, what was your favorite non-baseball item of the weekend? Joe, you don't have to say little person wrestling. If you want to say that, you can. You don't have to. I don't want you to feel cornered there. So I was in Fort Worth. The whole concessions operation at TCU is amazing. Their French fries are off the charts amazing. Seif, I'm talking 70 fries, maybe 80 if you're feeling generous. I also did get to stay with my cousin Bill Gordon, played baseball at Rollins College. He's been in Singapore with his family for 7 years. So that was really fun to stay there and hear about Singapore and then the fries at TCU. Joe, you go next. What would you like to say about the Jax Classic?
Well, first of all, they let me actually, I have a visual aid for this for those who might be. Hold on one second.
Oh, wow. Visual aid. Seif, do you have a visual aid? Did you know it was show and tell night?
I do not know. I just try to get my background okay. So
they have a pretty good. The folks at Peak Events, they take care of their staff and then their sponsors with some good swag. I saw people walking around with zip-up hoodie sweatshirts with the Jax Classic logo on them. Some
Nice.
like Peak Events, like lightweight sweatshirt hoodie kind of deals. And then I was able to procure one of the items, which is this Jax Classic like protein shaker thing.
Oh, nice.
Like it has like this little agitator on the top of it. Kind of looks like something you'd like juice an orange with. You know?
Yeah, it looks like a juicer.
Yeah, but it it's one of these like metal like insulated type deals. And
Joe, I got one of those from last year from Frisco or Round Rock, and I put coffee in there actually.
Yeah, you could do whatever with it. I'm sure
Those are amazing.
Apparently Gronk approved. I guess one of the lesser Gronks, Chris Gronkowski, is the founder of
bottle. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Jax Classic.
That's
So
cool.
the merch was great. Also, the great Kyle Peterson. When I was in, I sat in for a few innings doing not play by play. That would have been something if they'd let me do play by play. Doing analyst work on the streams over the weekend, and Kyle Peterson was kind enough to bring myself and Darren Vaught the churros that we'd been smelling all weekend. The smell of the churros wafting up to the press box level and taunting us all weekend. And Kyle Peterson came through, and it was a solid. I'm not going to throw like a 70 on it like your fries, but it was good enough.
Roons, can I interject here? Can I put like a 70 on Joe's color skills on in the booth?
I heard they were
really
great.
Good.
Joe, what was your best insight or line? Do you remember? What you feel like was your best effort?
Well, it was when I was talking to Darren Vaught about the bull riding across the street, and he was like, "Well, like professional bull riding," and we kind of went back and forth because I wondered what he thought the alternative to that was. Like, was it amateur bull riding?
It's a great follow-up question. It's good reporting.
You think they got kids riding these bulls? What do you
amateur bull riding sounds like a very bad idea.
Yeah,
very bad.
I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, that was.
I would not recommend amateur bull riding.
No,
that sounds like a way to get hurt real quick. Real quick.
Kendall, I would concur what you said. I heard Joe, and I heard the whole broadcast was awesome. Joe,
Darren
is
Vaught,
awesome.
By the way,
awesome.
Yeah, Darren was like really, really good. I had heard him on some ACC games before, but that is a marathon. You have 2 games a day. You guys were dealing with rain delays in Jacksonville on Friday. He was really good too, but always good to get KP down there. And of course, Mr. Shock was down in Jacksonville as well. Roons, I can report from Round Rock that I did not get one of those nice cups. I've got to reach out to my man Philip Valoria at Peak Events and find out why I did not get my blender cup.
You didn't get any swag, Kendall?
I didn't get any swag. They gave me like a pullover, and that was it.
Well, that's some swag, but that's not full swag. Yeah.
No, but those guys did an awesome job. It's kind of funny. A couple of years ago when they had Arkansas there, Arkansas and Louisiana played one day, and the high, like the game time temp was like 34. Over the weekend, it was like 84 one day, and like literally not a cloud in the sky. The weather could not have been better.
Kendall, speaking of swag, I have a Carson Bowen T-shirt for you from the Bowen family, which is really cool. It's kind of like an NIL type of deal, and he is the catcher for your team. So
I'm liking my chances. Is I haven't made up a name for my team. Do you? The Roginators, maybe? I don't know.
Ooh, I like that. I think like your command of the mute button. Maybe we need to workshop that a little bit.
You guys see my mug? My wife got me here.
Yeah, amazing.
Sides, how was a sweet life in Globe Life, man? Or what? I guess question 1: how was a sweet life? Question 2: at what point throughout the weekend did Fit fall asleep?
Okay, well, never fell asleep, but let me go back 2 minutes here. Are you talking a name for your fantasy team?
Correct.
Oh, that's been long established. You're the Red Cross. Like, you do not want Kendall Rogers to draft you if you're a pitcher, period. So, Red Cross Rogers.
I actually have to go back and find out who while you're talking, I'm going to go back and look at my team and find out who my pitchers are and do a little I'll do a little update for you guys.
Well, I think 2 of the 5 are already on the DL. So,
Seif, while Kendall's researching, what was your favorite non-baseball item from Globe Life?
Well, I hate to. You kind of gave me the lead in there because I'm pretty boring. I mean, I honestly thought Joe Healy was more boring than me, but Joe Healy is way more active than me. Just listening to his weekend with the wrestling and the churros and his time in the booth, I am way more boring. So I actually just like the fries. Fitty and I, we crushed the fries. but they were so good we had to like step away from them a little bit too because we were worried about our trans fat at one point. I think early on Sunday. So we put down the fries with the cheeseburger and the chicken strips, but we didn't really do much. I mean, we watched 2 great games a day at a great venue in a great suite that Raj has already prearranged for us. Matt's last name with Rev Entertainment was awesome. But we just had a great weekend, but it was mostly just food related. It was either food and Uber or at the hotel. So
who was your go-to at with Rev? Was it Matt? Was it Matt Malin?
Yeah, Matt Malin. Yep.
Oh, that guy's a rock star.
Yeah, he was super awesome to us, and we had the best suite you could have right behind the plate. Fitty kind of boxed me out because he put me right behind the umpire and the catcher, where he had the spot behind the left-hand batter's box. So he outviewed me at times, but I made it work. So,
I love it.
Good weekend.
Saif, going back to the weekend, I kind of go back to a tweet you put out, and I maybe I don't know if it's worded exactly like this, but I want to say that you said that Hagen Smith's performance might have been the best you've ever seen. You've seen a lot of baseball and you've seen a lot of pitchers. I guess, from a scouting perspective, just break that all down, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to write in the scouting trail for Wednesday is, I've been either playing college, coaching college, or scouting college for 34 years. And I have seen a lot. I played I actually didn't play that day, but we faced Todd Helton when he was at Tennessee. I was in the other dugout for Illinois, faced Todd Helton. I saw Matt Anderson for Rice. I saw him when he was 1-1 overall. He's the first guy I ever saw touch 100 miles per hour. I've coached junior college against guys that are in big leagues. So I've seen a lot, but I've just never seen an amateur player, pitch like it was like Kerry Wood's 19 or 21 strikeout performance in 2000. I forget the year, 2008 or 2010 or whatever. It was that dominant. I mean, Smith made 17 of the 18 outs via strikeout. Through 5, he had 15. He had recorded all the outs through strikeout. And it was efficient, too. It was like 78 pitches. So there was no deep counts. It was strike 1, strike 2, go take a seat. Most of them were on a slider. I mean, you could put an 80 on a slider, a 70 on a slider as far as the pro scale. You wouldn't be wrong either way. I mean, he touched 99. He pitched at 97, 98 for most of the 6 innings. Just dominant. There wasn't a guy – Bazana, the best pure hitter in America, or one of the two, whoever you want else throw in there. But he struck him out 3 times, and it wasn't even close. The first 2 times especially wasn't even close. Bazana was trying. They were all trying, but they didn't touch anything Hagen Smith was throwing up there. It was just unbelievably dominant.
What do you got on that slider, Seif? I'm sorry, Kendall. What do you like?
Go ahead.
What's the why there? Like, are the hitters not like? Is it? It's like 86, 87. Is that what the slider is?
Yeah, they know it's coming. I mean, he threw it pitch after pitch, but you also have to respect the 98. You know what I mean? And it's a lively 98 too. It's just not a straight 98. I mean, just the combination. He mixed in a couple of changeups, but only like 2 or 3 in the last couple innings just to show it. But I'm telling you, it was late. It was hard. It was under the barrel. It was untouchable. Again, it was like a Kerry Woods curveball, and Joe, you probably know 21 strikeouts. I forget what it was,
20.
but it was just
20, 1998
against
Cubs
Houston
and
Astros.
Astros.
I think that was the team, but yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. We were every inning. Fitty and I were just aghast and like, holy cow, did you see that? They couldn't touch him. Could not touch him.
Would you take him if you had to pick today? Would you take Brody Brecht or Hagen Smith?
Oh, Hagen Smith. I still have Cags at 1-1 just because he can do both, and he's a lefty that throws 99. He doesn't have that type of slider, but he may. But like if the draft were tomorrow, I'd still take Cags at 1, but Hagen Smith would be 2.
Hey,
I will say
Kendall.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Kendall. Go ahead. Finish that thought.
No, I was just gonna say, looking at his stat line over the weekend, and Joe can kind of weigh in on Brody a little bit, but looking at his stat line over the weekend, I mean, 11 punch outs against Auburn is pretty impressive because Auburn looked very good over the weekend.
Yeah, sorry, Joe.
I was just going to say, it was similar to what Seif's talking about with the slider. I mean, that was the pitch for Brody Brecht. That's no surprise. That's kind of the way he always puts batters away. But because you do have to respect the fact that, hey, this guy can, pump 101 past you, it just makes it such a difficult task. And Auburn ends up winning that game largely because Brecht looms so large over the proceedings while he's in there that the minute he comes out of the game, you can almost physically see Auburn relax and say like, oh, thank God. Yeah. Because the minute he leaves, I was bringing in good arms out of the bullpen in terms of just arm strength and stuff. And Auburn had no problems after that. But it was, impressive stuff for Brecht. He was, the fastball command is still, kind of whatever, but he just makes up for it because the slider's so dastardly and he throws just enough strikes.
Right. Like Brecht, and I like Brecht, don't get me wrong, Kendall, but like Brecht does not command his fastball. It's if we're being honest here, not critical, but just honest, it's 30 command. It's 40 control. It's 30 command. He misses up a lot and he's not trying to. But with Hagen Smith, I just point to one example. He went slider for called strike, slider for a swing and miss. And then Fitty and I look at each other like, why even waste a pitch? And Matt Hobbs stopped by the suite the next morning before their game on Saturday. And we talked to him for probably half an hour. And we were talking about the same scenario. And Fitty and I were just like, just put him away with another slider. Why waste a pitch? Hagen Smith spotted up 98 between the black of the plate and the inside line of the batter's box. He put it right there. It was called a ball. Next pitch, he came back with a slider for a swing miss. But that was the type of fastball command that Hagen Smith had. Again, that was one game, one night, but like he did it once. There's no reason he can't do it time and time again. Not every time, but he showed it. So, and plus Hagen Smith, I always take the lefty over the righty. When it's close, I always go left over right. Yeah. There's just fewer of them. So, but it's a long season. It's 12 more weeks, regular season, conference tournaments, regionals, on, and they got to stay healthy. And I expect Brecht to get better with his fastball command. And hate to say I expect Hagen Smith to get better. Gosh, if he just stays the same, he's that's ridiculous. So it was an exciting outing. And,
shades of Jared Weaver against A&M in the regional when he struck out, was it 21 in a regional game against A&M back in the late 90s?
Really? Goodness gracious. Hey, what Seif, let me forward you to the next. So let's say Joe and Kendall and I are scouting directors, and Cags is off. We're picking second, so Cags is off the board. And now, we're coming out of this weekend where Hagen Smith was incredible, but then Travis Bazzana the next day was equally incredible. Would you counsel KR, Joe, and I to take Hagen Smith all day long second, or is there a conversation to be had that Travis Bazzana needs to be in that discussion?
He can be in the conversation, but again, Hagen Smith was just so dominant, it's not even close. Like if the draft were tomorrow, that's who I'd go with. And Bazzana was good. He hits the ball hard. He's got a beautiful swing. It's explosive bat speed. He's the real deal. But at the end of the day, I want Clayton Kershaw to lead my rotation. I'm not saying there's a lot of Bazzanas, but there was just one Clayton Kershaw back in the day, and that's what Hagen Smith could be.
Crazy. Hey, let's Kendall and Joe, I'm going to come to you guys. Let's stay on this player motif. So I'm going to give you a player, Joe, but then I want you to what I'm looking for is any player from the weekend that you was really top of mind. This doesn't have to be the best player, but a player that really had your attention. The player I want to ask you about, Joe, is Henry Ford of Virginia. But I want you to also, I think KP tweeted about him or maybe texted us. But if there was another player too, and I'm going to do the same thing for you, Kendall.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So Henry Ford, really impressive freshman bat for Virginia. It's exactly what you've come to expect from Virginia's high-end position players. He's like a tall, lanky, lean athlete who's strong without looking, bulky, but he can move. He's a good athlete. Kind of a first base DH thing right now, but I think that has as much to do with what Virginia has is his defensive abilities anywhere else. So, but the bat really plays. He took an 0 for 5 on Sunday, and Brian O'Connor was just kind of like, because he was so impressive the rest of the weekend. So, shocker, Virginia has another impact freshman bat. It seems like every year they have one or two of these guys that just kind of emerge every year, and it's like, okay, they've restocked. It was when Teal was a freshman, and Harrison Didowick last year, Casey Sauke is a freshman. And speaking of which, Casey Sauke, really big weekend. And if you look at what he did 2 years ago, he set the bar so high for our expectations for him. And then last year, he had a perfectly adequate year. But when you compare it to his freshman year, it was, let's be honest, it was a little disappointing. He hit for less power, he hit for less average, all of it. But we know how talented he is. He has ACC Player of the Year type of upside, I feel like. And one of the big keys is going to be, can he get into more of his raw power? And it's just one look, but he took a ball in Saturday night's game, just to the and the ball was flying a little bit to right field, but just abused a ball to the opposite field for a no doubt home run. And again, that's one look. Maybe it's just a good swing, but that's precisely the type of swing they're going to look for from him to get him to hit with a little bit more pop. And on top of it, he's a good outfielder. Like, he's a good mover out there. So multifaceted guy. And Virginia's lineup is such that between Ford and Griffo Farrell, who had a tough weekend, but obviously he's an elite player there, Ethan Anderson, Anthony Stefan, like, the lineup is such that, Casey Sauke can just be the same guy he was last year, and Virginia's going to be A-okay. But man, if he's what he was as a freshman or better, that lineup's going to be extremely, extremely dangerous. I have more questions about Virginia on the mound long-term, which is what I've kind of had with them the last couple of years. They always kind of figure it out. So I want to give them a little bit of slack there, but the lineup is going to hit. I don't really have any real concerns about that group now. Just Henry Godbout too. I didn't mention him, but he had a great weekend. So, I mean, it's just guy after guy after guy for them in the lineup.
There's so many athletes every year that, Kevin McMullen's so good at recruiting athletes. Kendall, let's go to Round Rock for a second. Mitchell Daly, if I'm being honest, when I kept hearing Kentucky say Mitchell Daly's going to be our third baseman, and I was like, man, really? No offense to Mitchell Daly. I thought he's a nice middle infield defender, but now you put him on a corner and you're like, tell me what you saw with your own eyes, because it sounds like he played really well.
Yeah, he played great over the weekend. I think if you look at, Mitchell Daly as a whole, he's a guy that, and I kind of wrote about this over the weekend, but he's a guy that, had a great freshman year for Texas. I think he hit 320, 330 as a true freshman in the Big 12. And then the next 2 years, was still solid defensively, but really struggled offensively. I think teams made adjustments to him, and he was unable to make adjustments to that. And, he went to Kentucky with Jalen Flores moving to shortstop. I think he kind of found an opportunity to make a move, and he went to Kentucky. And, the thing about him is he was really good defensively over third. And he seems to be hitting with a little bit more power. The offensive approach looks a little better to me than what I saw during his time in Texas. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like Kentucky, for the most part, did a pretty good job in the portal with some of their guys. I like their club, honestly. After the first day, which, even the first day they had a very good chance to win that game against Wazoo. But Kentucky looked like a really good club the next 2 days. I mean, Daly had a big weekend, had the big grand slam. Devin Burks finally got hot. Ryan Waldschmidt is finally back from an injury. I'm not 100% sold on their pitching, but I did like Dom Neiman. I mean, you're talking about a lefty who was up to 95. He had a little bit more velocity than I was expecting from Dom Neiman.
Central Connecticut State, right? Go Blue
Devils.
Devils.
He was 93, 95 the first 2 or 3 innings for Kentucky. So, yeah, I mean, that was really intriguing. He had a promising start. So I think Kentucky is going to hit with Emilian Pitre and those guys. The question for me is, can they pitch enough in the SEC? But, yeah, Mitchell Daly was impressive. And the other guy for me, since you kind of wanted a couple of names, I was very, very curious to kind of see what Ryan Farber for Texas State did, because he was a guy that entered the weekend hitting 700. And, what did he do in the first game? Hits a double, gets a big single. I love this guy. He's a definite all-fit candidate. I mean, he's not a big kid. He's probably 5'9", 5'10", if you're being pretty liberal. But he's got a really, really smooth stroke from the left side. Just a very mature offensive approach. He makes hard contact every single time he's up there. The only bugaboo for Farber is the fact that he's playing out of position in center, and that ended up costing them a couple of runs, in the Saturday game. So, just really impressed with him offensively. But again, the storyline for me, and I got to give Nathan Schoten and Wazoo credit. I mean, they did win the tournament. I thought they had a really solid club offensively. They got going. Kason Taggart was a guy that's gotten off to a really good start for them. Offensively, and he had a good weekend, once again. But, the storyline for me was UK. I think that's a club for me that is definitely a regional team, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. But very promising offense.
So interesting. And you mentioned Wazoo, like the Pac-12 is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a real opportunity. Utah and Wazoo are off to these great starts. So is Cal. There's a real opportunity. I just watched UCLA get swept. The weekend before, I watched USC go 0-3. Arizona State is really struggling on the mounds. Like there is real room.
It is wide open.
Ascension. Yes.
Yeah, it's really wide open. I mean, Oregon is a good club. I think Oregon's probably the most. Oregon opening weekend was very consistent across the board, I thought. I mean, they weren't ultra flashy, but I thought it was a good team. Cal is the club for me out of the Pac-12 that is front of mind right now. You look at the job that Rodney Green's done from a power standpoint. PJ Moutsaritas, the talented freshman for them, is hitting like over 500-600. He's off to a fantastic start, like a 1.65 OPS. So, Cal's offense looks really dangerous right now. So it's almost like, with the Pac-12, it's almost like things have kind of like reshuffled a little bit here early in the season.
Yeah, agreed. Let me give you guys two players from Fort Worth, and then we'll do a team perspective to finish. So Peyton Tolley for TCU, boy, is he a donkey. I mean, that is a large mammal. He is every bit of 6'6", 250 pounds. And he's not someone that's going to glare in the other. By the way, Seif, this might be a little rough on your ears because you had to toil in the Missouri Valley Conference, but I love that one of the reasons Peyton Tolley is a college baseball player is because his mom went to Wichita State when the Shockers were like elite in baseball, and his mom is like this big college baseball fan because he could easily be playing college football. But he doesn't glare in the other dugout, but he looks at the hitter like, I will punch you. Like it is a nasty look. He is like bar fight meter, Kendall, off the charts. Yo, like
he would fit in nicely in cut and shoot, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but there's no bar fights because you would not go at him, right? Like you'd be brain dead to go at him. He's 6'6", 250, and he threw one non-fastball in the first inning, and it's 89-91. Now the TCU people did say that his extension is like nothing they've ever seen, and he gets like UCLA is not a bunch of stiffs. Like that's a bunch of high-profile dudes, and he's just throwing fastball. He never throws a changeup. He's got two different breaking balls, but I just love Peyton Tolley. I think he's such a great Friday night guy. His first start wasn't great. This start was perfect. It was a winning start. It was just like my team is winning this game. I loved Peyton Tolley. I don't know where he would stack up as a prospect, Seif, because he's unique and it's probably there's no projection. But man, as your college baseball Friday night guy, give me that dude all day long. Peyton Chatagnier was, a famous transfer for them. And he's exactly the same player, and it's perfect. Like he leads off, and there are two things I'm certain of. I will never grow hair on my head again, and Peyton Chatagnier is swinging at the first pitch of every single game he's participating in. Like there's no Joe, you have to throw it in the dugout for him not to swing. I'm telling you, he's swinging, and he hits a ton of fly balls, which drives you crazy because he's tiny, but he's such a winner, and I know that's cliche, but on Sunday, Zach Morris was really struggling with strikes, and you could hear in the press box, like Peyton Chatagnier he's getting at him, like, hey, you are not giving up on this game. It was he's just his energy is so perfect for TCU. They're not going to be the sexiest team, like they don't have guys throwing 1,000,000 miles an hour and all that type of stuff, but man, like you got to play good to beat them. That team is really locked in on the right things.
Roons, we were talking a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, about Zach Morris. I think we all kind of thought coming into the season, Lois was really high on him as a potential starter. It didn't look like you really viewed him as a starter. So I guess my question is, if it's not him, like who would you have in the rotation that you saw over the weekend?
It's a tough call. Sloan? Like I would probably do. I like Sloan better in the bullpen. I would do Ben Hampton, honestly. Like I think he's plenty.
You're going to get
for Sunday. Yeah, it's like the problem is Tolley, Klecker, Hampton. You're not missing a lot of bats with that rotation, right? And Ben Abelt is their bat mister, and they do have some swing and miss in the bullpen, but I would probably go Hampton, and Zach Morris does get swing and miss. I mean, it's 91 from the left side. It's a good slider, but he sprays the fastball all over the joint. He had bases loaded, nobody out in the first, and then UCLA went backwards K 463. So that's what I would do. But pray for the problem, right? They could keep playing around with this and see what they like. And it was fascinating. Hey, let's finish with like some team perspectives. Seif, what's a team takeaway you have from Globe Life? Whether it's a team that you're really more excited about than you thought you'd be, or if it's a team that maybe you're a little bit more concerned about than you thought you'd be.
Oh man, great question. Oregon State. Now, Aiden May was spectacular on Friday night. He opposed Hagen Smith, and he was spectacular. I mean, it was a 70 slider. It was up to 96 with a fastball. He was locating, throwing strikes. It was just that pitcher's battle. So I would have said I was more impressed with Oregon State. I knew they had a great lineup. You know, anytime Bazan's leading off, and you got the Turleys and the kid named Macias, I didn't even know. Like, he was outstanding. I really enjoyed watching him swing it. But I knew the lineup was good. I knew the pitching was okay. But May was outstanding. The only downside, so I guess Oregon State, to answer your question, is like they were more impressive pitching-wise than I thought. But to walk back from that a little bit, May left the game holding his arm. So I haven't heard anything out of Corvallis. We all know how it's pretty hush-hush there. And if Kendall can't even get a word out of there, you know it's pretty hush-hush. But so that is very concerning because, I mean, that was an ace. That was a Friday night guy who can compete with anybody. We went toe-to-toe with Hagen Smith in the best game I've ever – in the best pitching performance I've ever seen. That's how good Aiden May was. So I'd have to go with Oregon State. Now, Arkansas, I could go with them. They were super impressive, too. They are everything as advertised. They maybe didn't hit as much as we thought they would, but the pitching was just dominant.
I mean, everybody throws 96 for Arkansas, right? Like, is it? Are they have their own radar gun? Like, is it? It's like that comedy.
99. Gabe Gackle was throwing 99 like it was easy. It wasn't like he was pitching. I know a lot of people are critical. It's like, oh yeah, they just throw it up there. They don't throw strikes. His ERA is 20. Gabe Gackle is like, he was spotting his fastball, throwing a slider for strikes. It's controlled, really good delivery. I mean, this is a guy who was pitching at 98. So just super impressive. I could talk all about Gabe Gackle too. And Brady Tigert was outstanding. Mason Molina, he seemed like the vanilla cone, but he had the best mix and the best. He went 5 hitless innings. You know what I mean?
That's your Sunday guy. You're in good shape.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, he's your Sunday guy, and he's like, he threw a no-hitter through 5. So, and they had other guys. They had a kid named Fisher, a freshman lefty, Colin Fisher, and even Jake Faherty. He got the save on Friday, and came in was 1-0 on Saturday, and left one was 1-1. But he was touching 98 with a 70-grade slider. You know, I mean, it's just guy after guy. So it's amazing pitching stuff. It definitely is. But to answer your question, and Oregon State is probably the team I walked away more impressed with than I was going in. But it could be equalized depending on what's going on with Aiden May.
Yeah, it's interesting. Joe, how about you from the Jax Classic? What's a team impression you leave with?
I'll give you a quick hit and then like a more expound on another team. First is that I don't know how many games Wichita State's going to win this year, but they're not going to be fun to play. They've got physicality. They also have an extremely left-handed lineup. So if you're not equipped to get left-handers out, like that's a problem. And it's a typical kind of like Brian Green outfit. Like the dugout's energetic. It's a lot of positive energy. It's, kind of chirpy. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like it's a loud dugout. It's energetic. It's umpires having to tell them to get back to the dugout after a home run. Like,
love that.
What you're going to get energy for 9 innings. And like that can be obnoxious to play, and also they competed well this weekend. Auburn got them. Okay, fine. But the 2 other days they got a win against Iowa, and they played Virginia tooth and nail in that game. So I don't know how good they will or won't be, but I just know they're going to get someone and ruin somebody's day, and they're not going to be any fun to play. So that was one. Auburn, if they can keep their pitching kind of where it is right now, like that's a team with Omaha upside, which is not a super hot take because I think we all like their club in general, and I like the offense when you take obviously Ike Irish, incredible bat. I like what I saw from Chris Stanfield as a guy who's a real catalyst for them. You've got a veteran like Bobby Pierce, who's just been there forever and has physicality. Cooper McMurray, right? So, Derek Fabian's kind of like I don't want to say extra piece, but I mean, he's leading their team in average and he doesn't start every day. So they've just got a lot of pieces to play, cards to play offensively, but the pitching for me is the key to the whole deal for them. And it's healthy right now. Joseph Gonzalez looked kind of like Joseph Gonzalez, which is to say kind of like boring in the best way, right? I mean, It's not high-end stuff. It's not strikeouts. And in fact, if he's getting strikeouts, it's probably a bad sign that he's not getting enough sink on the ball. But he looked strong. So now you're looking at a situation where a guy like Christian Herberholz, who was started down the stretch for them last year and was pretty doggone good, is just kind of like a generic bullpen piece for them. Cam Tilley, their best freshman, who's got a real live arm. I got to look at him over the weekend. They don't feel obligated to shove him into the rotation. Like, he's a bullpen piece. Tanner Bauman started last year. He's a bullpen piece. So right now they're in a really good spot where it's not the most exciting rotation in the world with Alsop, who has command issues, Gonzalez, and then Carson Myers, who's just like a pitchability lefty from UAB. But that's good enough based on what I saw this weekend. And then you combine that with like what I'd call a kitchen sink bullpen, which is like they've got low slot righties and they've got low slot lefties. They've got over the top hard throwers. They've got over the top stock right-handers. They've got sinker slider guys. Like it's just like a grab bag of every type of pitcher you would want to have in your bullpen. And if you give Butch Thompson that kind of pitching staff, I have to assume that what's going to come out of that is a pretty good staff in general.
Yeah, you're right. Joe Gonzalez, just keep taking the ball, and it's all good. We know he can pitch. Hey, Kendall, from Round Rock, here's my question for you, and you can go wherever you want, obviously.
Sure.
So you had Washington State, who's, again, they're old. They've got like 6 pitchers who are fifth-year seniors or better. Like, It's a men's league team is what Washington State is. Like, it's an old team on the mound. And then you had Kansas, and then you had Texas State, and then you had Kentucky. When it's all said and done, how many regional teams were there? Is it 2? Is it 1? Is it 3?
I'm going to go with 1. I'm going to say 1. I feel pretty confident in Kentucky. I think Kentucky's going to hit enough to be a regional team. That's a really confident club too. It was almost like the opening game made them mad, and they played like it the rest of the weekend. I kind of like that. It's kind of a staple of a Nick Mingione team, right? That's just the way they kind of play. Texas State for me is really interesting. I think with Louisiana struggling, I think there's an opportunity for Texas State to move ahead of the Cajuns in the pecking order. Offensively, I really liked them. Augie Ramirez is a really big-time bat in the middle of that lineup. But their starting pitching has got to get better. They would have potentially gone 3-0 over the weekend had their starting pitching just not gotten them in such a huge hole the first couple innings. So the big thing for me is if they can shore up the starting pitching, offensively, that's a really good-looking club. And then Kansas, I like their club. I do wonder if KU has enough on the mound. But I tell you what, when you look at that offensive lineup with Cody Shojinaga and you look at Chase Jans, Jansen Reeder's a really physical guy. Then, Jake English, you talked about older guys, Wazoo's lineup. Jake English is an older guy in Kansas's lineup who's taken that big step forward from an offensive standpoint. So, I am with, Fit made the comment in the preseason. He thought that, Kansas can be a regional team. I think they can. I just think the Big 12 is going to be really difficult to get in pole position to be a regional team. But they're definitely much better and certainly more talented. Can I mention one team that was in the same area code that did catch my attention, by the way?
Please, by all means.
The Texas pitching staff. When Tanner Witt went down for the Longhorns, I kind of thought, okay, that's it for the pitching staff. Without Witt, they're really going to struggle. Texas did not allow a single run over the weekend to Cal Poly. Now, I think we'd all agree that Cal Poly is probably not the greatest team in America, but I don't care who you're playing, not allowing a run in a single game over the weekend is very impressive. Charlie Hurley threw really well for the Horns on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Cody Howard, who, if you look back at my fall report, he was like the one arm I saw that day that I actually really liked. I didn't see their best arms that day, But, Howard was like 90, 92, pretty good slider, some physicality to him, moved his pitches around really well. He went 5 shutout in that final game for the Horns against the Mustangs. So they go from not allowing a run over the weekend to, guess what? They get to play LSU Friday night, and they get to play Vanderbilt later this week as well. So big weekend for the Horns, but we're about to find a whole hell of a lot more about Texas here in the next few days.
Yeah, we are. That Friday, I mean, they'll have 30,000 people at that game. That's going to be absolutely
fun.
LSU,
I kind of feel like I had a good chat question today. Somebody said, hey, does it kind of feel like LSU just like sleepwalking a little bit? I'll tell you what, they ain't going to be sleepwalking when they play Texas on Friday night.
No, not in front of that crowd. So, hey, boys, let me give you I'm going to give you a thought on UCLA. I've got one final question for all 4 of us. And let's just – I'm going to save most of the top. When we do these weekend recaps, I want to, not go crazy on the rankings. That's really what the chat is for. Hey, DBU, Campbell, and Auburn came in. Iowa, UCLA, and K-State came out of the rankings. I'm saying this, not speaking for Kendall or Joe or Fitzy, but teams like Cal and Irvine, Indiana State, and others are kind of there. But in the beginning, there's a lot to sort out. Here's my my worry for UCLA and Louisville. I just watched UCLA get swept. The first 2 games were close, but TCU was leading the proceedings. UCLA was trying to stay with UCLA, but TCU was in command of those games. On Sunday, UCLA was that fighter that just gets smoked with an uppercut and then is in shock. They had bases loaded, nobody out to start the game. They don't score. They give up 5 in the first, 2 in the second. They get 10-run ruled. UCLA did not compete well at all on Sunday. They had a long meeting in the outfield after the game. Deuce Gorson, who I think is a star player. I mean, this kid started games for Team USA last summer. He had an awful weekend. And now, again, TCU's got lefties and kids. They're a tough look for a left-handed hitter. But UCLA's going nowhere fast with Deuce Gorson struggling like that. And he will not struggle like that all year. Here's my concern for UCLA and Louisville. To borrow your phrase, Joe, these are high floor programs because they recruit so well and they've got such a winning tradition. Here's the problem for those 2 programs. They don't want to be high floor programs. They have high expectations. They want to be Omaha teams. That's what their pedigree is. And there's an expression, Joe, you'll think of it, but where it's 2 forces coming at each other. And that's what I think UCLA and Louisville are fighting right now is the reality is they're just a high floor team, but their aspirations are totally their aspirations and who they are do not match right now. Now they could change those things, right? Teams can get better, and both teams have a ton of talent, but I'm concerned about that, where who they are and who they want to be are just not aligned. And it's almost like watching someone suffer from an identity crisis. I think it's very fixable, but if it was easy to fix, they'd already have it. What's the expression I'm looking for there, Joe, when two forces are going at each other?
Is that like the irresistible force, the immovable object?
Yeah, is that similar?
Yeah,
same church, different pew.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're there. That makes sense to me. Yeah. I mean, this is obviously not a topic of discussion here, but Louisville dropping a game to St. Bonaventure and then struggling to get out in the finale of that. I mean, they had to score 18 runs to win relatively comfortably against St. Bonaventure on Sunday. Oof. St. Bonaventure won 8 games last year. 8.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment without offending a really good mid-major right now? So give
it a shot. It sounds like you're going to offend them, Ken, but let's do it.
This is actually now that I think about it, this is like a compliment. But can somebody explain to me how? And granted, Mitch Hannes has done an incredible job at Indiana State. Yes. But can somebody explain to me how Indiana State has had clearly superior pitching to Louisville in back-to-back seasons? How the hell does that happen? Can somebody answer that? I mean, Indiana State does an amazing job. Don't get me wrong. But last year they have Finlong and Jacek. Or Jasek or whatever. This year, Jacob Pruitt, who I'm sure Seif will see at some point soon, is throwing BBs out there. And Luke Hayden struggled over the weekend. But again, like it's a 95, 98 arm. Does Louisville have two guys like that at all?
Well, I think
I'm
Jason
just trying to throw it out there. Like all these kids are within 2 or 3 hours of Louisville, and they're all going to Indiana State.
Yeah, I think Jasek and Fenlong are outliers because like Jasek is the kid that you wouldn't chase in recruiting. You know, he's 88 to 90, short, like squatty right-hander. But it turns out he's got crazy feel, right? Like, and then Fenlong is just some JUCO max effort strong arm right-hander who ends up with a cutter that he throws every pitch, right? Like it's hard to account for that in recruiting, but your point I can't dispute.
Spencer, by the way.
Yeah, like lefty throwing 97. Yeah. I mean, I think what we're saying here, Kendall, is Louisville, who has pitched very well for very long, is not pitching very well right now.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I mean, it really is for a program that has had the Reed Detmers of the world to be where they are right now is just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, let me give you guys here's what I want to wrap on. So I'm thinking about Iowa, right? They just got swept. They had a lead in all those games. Yeah. The bullpen was the issue. And I'm thinking about Clemson last year, who was 2-7 in the ACC, only to be the number 4 overall seed. I'm thinking about Ole Miss, who 2 years ago was 7-14 in SEC play, only to win the national title. Is Iowa going to fix this? So it's a I'll give you 3 multiple choice answers. So my question is Iowa going to fix this very quickly and they're going to be a host? Or are they going to be a nightmare 2 seed for somebody because there's too much talent? Or neither. Maybe like they've got an Achilles heel that is going to take down the whole operation. So A is they're going to be, this is exactly what they needed. They're going to go on a run in the Big Ten. They're going to host. B is they're going to be the worst 2 seed you've ever faced in your life. Or C, neither, and we're gonna have the rosary beads out.
I have a middle answer.
Selection. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think Iowa
is fill in the blank.
Well, so I think Iowa's going to be fine, and Joe saw him up close. So I'll let him have ultimate say here. But I think Iowa's going to be fine. But I think, and again, I hate to speak in absolutes. The third week of the season, but if they lose a series to Ole Miss, they're going to have a really tough time hosting.
Yeah,
because that'll be two non-conference weekends against good competition that they have losing weekends, and it's just going to be really hard for a northern school to host with that kind of resume.
They'd have to scorch the Big Ten.
They would have to just absolutely dominate the Big Ten, which, by the way, is pretty good. I mean, Indiana's good. Nebraska, I thought, was really solid.
Ohio State.
Mike Gambino is I don't know what kind of pixie dust he's sprinkling around over there in State College, but they're off to a surprising start. So. Yeah, they're going to have to just go crazy in that league.
Joe, you're going to go last since you saw them. Seif, what say you? You're muted.
There we go. I just had to find the right button. I know I was muted. I just looking around here. I'm going to go B. I think they're going to be a really good 2 seed. I saw them 2 games opening weekend in South Carolina. I know Joe just saw them 3 games this weekend, but I watched part, if not most, of all those Iowa games just to check in on those pitchers again. Their Achilles is, as Joe will probably tell you too, is just their offense. I mean, they have Sam Peterson, and then what do you got? Peterson's one of the best hitters in the country. That a lot of people probably don't know his name yet, but super talented player. He's an 80 runner, can hits for power, plays left field, so it kind of looks like prospecty or whatever. But they got a really good defender in center field. So Sam Peterson's the guy, but their Achilles is definitely the depth of their lineup. And maybe what Joe saw was their relief pitching, because I'm not trying to steal Joe's thunder, but they led in every game. But as soon as they pulled their starter, that's when they lost every game. So they were winning for 5/9 or 6/9 of every game. So,
Joe, before you go, I'm going to go. My head says B, they're going to be a 2 seed, but my heart says A, and now I'm going with my heart. Rise up, Iowa City! You're hosting in June. Get ready. It's going to be warm. I'm just putting it in the universe. Now, Joe, you give us a sensible answer, please.
I appreciate you putting that out there, Roons, if for no other reason than if they have to host a regional at the current iteration of Dwayne Banks Field, it might motivate people to get the new Dwayne Banks Field up and going a lot more quickly.
Somebody put some shovels in the ground right now.
that rendering has been like hung up on the right field bleachers for years now.
They're almost as bad as Illinois stadium renderings that they came out with during the Tyler J year.
Hey, guys, quit picking on my Big Ten here. I will tell you, Iowa's field is a lot better than it was just a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. So I will say, though, people were a lot smaller, 75, 100 years ago. Like, used to be like the old seats at Wrigley Field where, they fit the people of that era. But, we're bigger and taller and everything now. And Iowa's still the same way. So you will sit at Iowa in a seat and your knees will be in your throat. They are that tight. The seats are that close. The rows are that close together. So they need to do something about their seating quick. And then you're ripping on my alma mater, Illinois. I will just tell you, they have the worst seating I have ever seen. It is still the bleacher aluminum, my butt kills, that I sat on when I was charting pitches in 1991. So Illinois definitely is way worse than Iowa when it comes to seating. Now, Illinois has some really nice facilities indoor, their clubhouse. They made some really nice improvements too. But the seating in Illinois is just terrible. But you're underrating Iowa here. They're on like phase 3 of 9 for their field, Joe. So be nice to
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And in Illinois, you can't beat the sights, that graveyard behind left field. Like you just can't.
well,
It's the Midwestern
the
pepper.
road. The 4-lane road that separates the cemetery from the baseball field. You know that road.
Yeah.
They do have the David Seifert Plaza though, which is really nice.
Yeah, well, I gave up a home run into that road, so just so you know,
There's a
so
baseball
good.
lane next to it.
Didn't quite make the cemetery.
Okay.
Cool.
Seif, maybe you can aim your sights real high instead of how they had Kurt Reed at Southern Illinois sponsored the bathrooms. Maybe you could be the namesake to the bathrooms at Illinois Field.
Yeah. There's a story behind it. Did you ever get to the bottom of that?
Kurt
It's
Reed.
ongoing.
No, that's Joe.
The investigation's ongoing.
Oh, that's right. Roons wanted to talk, and you wanted to interview him. I'm sorry. That's
Joe's
right.
too busy doing his real job and not actually looking at the Kurt Reed situation.
We'll get to the bottom of it. Although it's going to be one of those deals where it's like it's more fun to just toss out reasons why that's the case. Like the actual story is probably not nearly as funny as
I feel like
us
Shock. I feel like Shock is a good person to put on the case on Kurt Reed.
That would be an excellent choice.
He might actually be Kurt Reed.
Yeah, no doubt.
Joe, get us back to reasonable baseball conversation. What do you got on Iowa?
He might be Kurt Reed. It's like a DB Cooper situation. So that's a reference for like 6 people out there.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I think it's B, like Iowa's like a really pesky 2 seed you absolutely do not want to see. But the problem is the Big Ten is going to have to be good as a league. And I think it is. Like, I think this is an up year for the Big Ten. However, like we've seen this before where, you get a 36 win. I mean, Iowa's done this before. You get a 36, 37 win Iowa team that goes 15-9 in the Big Ten and their RPI is 61. And like, if their RPI was 15 spots higher, they could be the same exact team and be a 2 seed. And like, so I just fear that like the difference between being a 2 seed and being on the wrong side of the bubble is so narrow for them. And it has nothing to do with how good the team is, because I think this is a regional 2 seed caliber team. So that's, and then you look at the schedule and it's like, they've got a series against Western Illinois. That's not great. They've got and in the Big Ten, they get Purdue, that historically has not been great. Minnesota, tough few years. They've got Northwestern, that's tough. And they end the season with FIU at home. And like FIU's not been very good. So like they've got some good series in there, but they also play like St. Thomas in the midweek. And their RPI, I can just about guarantee you, is going to be like 250, 260.
Well,
So I think I was on talent, a nightmare of a 2 seed. I just don't know that the resume, like they're going to have to really hustle and play well in the Big Ten to get there in terms of resume.
That's fair. Gonna have to send those renderings to the selection committee. Send those to Indianapolis.
Right.
See if that doesn't sway
right.
some people. Boys, let's cap it right there. That was a fun discourse. Seif, thank you for subbing in for Fitty Barrels. Always a pleasure. Always love having
It's a lot more pleasant with Seif on here than Fit.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Seif. You really are playing for Kendall's team.
Sorry, I was on mute there.
Yes.
I'm happy, very happy to substitute for Fit anytime.
Yes. Let me say this to the listeners. Now is the perfect time to get a subscription to D1Baseball.com, SEC Extra. Also, consider the streaming options for the games this weekend. Coach Farron, the great Mike Farron, and I will be in Vegas. We've got Oklahoma. We've got Pitt. We've got Ohio State, who's got 8 left-handed hitters out of 9. And then we've got Cal, Caleb Lovavita, Rodney Green Jr. is off to a great start. So when you go into, I'm talking about the website now, the website subscription. If you type in 24 season, you get 24% off. You could also type something fun in there like Midwestern Pepperdine, DB Cooper, who, by the way, is worth Googling. Holy cow, that's a Google, Joe. Thank you for that. Aluminum bleachers is another great thing you could put in there at checkout. But put in 24 season. Your spouse will appreciate that. You'll get 24% off. You want to watch games with the player stats right there, the advanced stats. You can look up fall reports. You can look up conference previews. And you could have looked up that St. Bonaventure by Coach Rooney was picked to finish last in they're frisky, but they were picked to finish last in the A-10. And that puts some context around that upset of Louisville. Like I think you said, Joe, they won 8 games last year. So very good. Gentlemen, appreciate it. Good effort tonight. That's it. Everybody have a great week, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.